In this video, I'm going to break down the process I used to create this piece of work from start to finish using Photoshop and Dithering. I'm going to show you how you could create a still image version of this and an animated version of this. You don't need any animation experience to animate this art style if you've got Dithering. I'll leave everything linked below relating to Dithering, but it is a one-time purchase software. We just added a load of animation features into it and all of the updates are free. So if you've already got Dithering, then the new animation stuff is ready for you to use in version 6.0.2. But to get straight into the video, I have got this stock photo open here because this is the one I used. You can use any image of hands really. I would, if you're looking to recreate exactly what I did, but I would aim for something where there is an obvious background, obvious foreground, and lighting that isn't only sort of just on one side of the hand. You can see here the hand is lit from both sides here, so that's why I picked this image. Now, all I've really had to do in Photoshop for this one is just a really small curves adjustment just to intensify the red a little bit. Literally just because when I dithered this without this little adjustment, curves is a little bit better than the adjustments that we've got in Dithering. So yeah, it was just a bit flat without the red being slightly out of balance with the rest of the image. And then I just added a text layer. This is just a lyric from OKLoo, if any of you listen to OKLoo. And then other than that, all you need to do is just make sure you've positioned your subject basically to whatever your goal is, probably in the middle, and add your own text if you wanna. I'm using Cascadia code here, which is open source. So if you want to use Cascadia code, I think it's on Google Fonts. Yeah, here it is. This was made, I think, by Microsoft, but these are the actual authors. But yeah, you can get this on Google Fonts for free. And all I'm doing is just saving that as a JPEG, but I'm leaving the PSD open and then opening up Dithering. And if you want to use a Dithering theme that uses Cascadia code as well, just switch to the Dithering Hacker theme. And yeah, we used that font for this theme as well. And I've imported my image. The dithering algorithm I used on my piece was one of the orb diffuse algorithms. Orb diffuse Y I used. Y relates to the axis that you're diffusing along, so X being the horizontal axis and Y being the vertical axis. And then I up the scale to I think 49 or 50 in mine. Then we come to colors, and you can add a third color if you want, just because this original image, it had basically 3 colors or 3 shades in it. Obviously there'll be millions of colors in the actual image, but I'm referring to the red underside of the hand, the black background, and then sort of the gray to white skin color on the hand. And I'm just going to find a green that kind of works. Now, when you're adding color with Dithering, you need to make sure your color depth slider is set to the amount of colors you want. So if I want to start including this third color, I need to move the color depth slider to 3. But the issue here is the way this works is it's going to compare each of these colors that I've got set in my list to the pixels in the original image and assign colors based on what is most similar. So the original image is mostly gray with a red underside, and all I've done is added in a green color. So this gray that's come in at the top or at the bottom of my list, it is the most similar color to the rest of the image here, so that's why it's getting priority. If I move this to red, you'll see now the green is more similar to the gray, and so the green's mapped onto the gray, and the red is obviously more similar to the red in the original, so it's being mapped to the underside of the hand. So based on what people have told me, I've maybe not made that very clear or explained that very well, so I'm working on making sure I communicate how this works in the future. But this is a really good image to demo this on and sort of explain how Dithering's color system works. For my piece, I kept this color palette, knowing that obviously if I want to remove the red, I can just reduce the color depth back down to 2, and I've got the green, which is what I went for in the end for my final. Keeping the red there and just using the color depth to toggle it on and off basically is like a nice alternative to just scrapping that option altogether. Next, if you click on add effect and come to Epsilon glow and toggle that on, then lower the threshold, not all the way down, but to something really low, and lower the threshold smoothing as well, and then up the intensity and the radius and the aspect ratio. If I just zoom in a bit, you'll see I'm kind of aiming for like a little star shape around each of the dots. Obviously most of the dots here are adding up to lines, but when you get these like outliers here, it's kind of a cool detail if you can have them with the glow turn into little stars basically. So that's all I'm going for here. The easy way to do that is just basically go for a high intensity, medium radius, low threshold with radius compensation on, and then use the bottom 3 here. So the fall off, the lower the fall off, the more stars or like the more shapes you'll start to see. You don't want to go too far with that, otherwise it just starts looking silly, but still Still something quite low for fall off. I've gone for 14. Epsilon, obviously what we named this after. Think of Epsilon slider as being like a minimum glow. When Epsilon is at 0, the minimum glow is very intense. When it's high, you're going to get a wide variation of like glow intensities across the image. Really just depends on how intense you want this to be. I'm just going to go something down the middle because I don't want to go too far either way. And then distance scale, if you have a very high distance scale, your glow will be very subtle. If you have a low distance scale, your glow will be very, very over the top. These are just like more precise radius and intensity controls, these three at the bottom. So if you go for something like this and then come back and want to trial that on just the green, that's why I ended up going for just green, because the green and the red, the glow kind of it just doesn't work with that glow setup, but I feel like it does when it's just green. So I'm now going to lower mine to color depth 2. So as you're going through this process, come back up to where you've got your import and export settings. And if you just change PNG to clipboard, I'm now noticing that this needs to be aligned properly, which is very annoying. So I will do that in the next update, but change to clipboard and then click on copy to clipboard and come back into Photoshop. This is why I told you to leave the PSD open and just paste in every now and again as you're going through and setting this up. That's just like a nice way to keep some of your work basically along the way without having to go through the full export path. So the last thing here to set up is orb size and count, intensity, and all that stuff. This is what we're going to use as part of our animation. So I'm going to go for a really small orb size because all I'm really looking for is orbs like this that disrupt the flow of the sort of modulation lines. I don't really care for like this one here. Where it's at right now, this orb, it's not really doing much. But later on, when we come to animate, one of the properties we'll animate is the orb offset. And so eventually the orbs will all cross a line that they're going to mess with basically, which is what I want. So that means I'm going to go for really, really minimum orb size, a higher orb count, and the orb intensity is up to you. For me, the orb intensity being low only really pays off when you've got these nice interactions between the lines. You can see here, like this one's like breaking through the line almost, which looks really nice at low intensity. The rest of the orbs at low intensity look kind of crap. So I'm going to go high intensity, low size. Orb random doesn't really do anything specific. It literally just randomizes. If you don't like the placement of the orbs, just choose a different orb random value. Orb offset, you're going to leave alone because you're going to animate this in a minute. And orb direction will just toggle the movement of the orb offset. So if you want the orbs to move up and down or left to right, you've got the orb direction toggle there. Now, another one to note, just for when you come to animate this, is luminance threshold here is not doing much because this is kind of a flat image in the places that we're getting detail. So you can also use this in your animation if you want, just because it's kind of an inconsequential property of the dither. And for final touches, if you would like lots of lines, just lower your contrast. If you would like a nice isolated hand, then up your contrast, obviously depending on the image that you're working with. If you're working with the same one as me, then that's going to be the settings here. It's quite sensitive to the contrast, so don't go too far either way. And then brightness, again, can just help you like dial some of that in or exaggerate it, or, you know, either way. This is a good opportunity to take some of the copies. So this is just a cool asset to have. I don't know. I just love these kind of artifacts from this style. So I'm going to copy this one and just dump it in my PSD and then up the brightness again to something a little bit more sane. And then the last thing before we start animating is Dnoise. So Dnoise is a slider we added specifically for these types of dithering algorithms where you are creating lines. You can see here, you know there's a line there, but there isn't really a line there. It's just lots of dots. So blur and denoise, if I just whack the denoise up to 100, you'll see the lines form much cleaner. If you want to take that even further, you can start using blur, but with blur, obviously you're going to sacrifice some of your hard edges, and you're relying on the hard edges here to form the shape of the hand. So if I go all the way with blur, you're just going to get lines. If I do a little bit of blur, they're going to smooth a little bit, but most of the reward here is from denoise. So yeah, you can leave that on if you want. I personally quite like like the scattered lines, so I'm going to turn it off. And I'm just going to take a final copy to clipboard and dump that in my Photoshop file as well. And in fact, I'm going to leave Dnoise on for the next thing I'm going to show you here. So if you click plus and go to temporal variation, you'll be prompted to create an animation. I'm going to go 3 seconds and 24 FPS. I've been called out for saying this in my Discord server, but I do that because I don't want to ruin my recordings, because I'm recording face cam and screen. You can go higher if you want. And then I'm going to click create animation, and it immediately, this particular type of temporal variation has ruined our pattern. So if we turn intensity down all the way to 0, you'll get it back. So this is basically imprinting an animated pattern onto your image pre-dither so that you can get some movement through your dithering. This is one of the coolest effects in Ditherboy version 6. I'll try and make sure to prioritize talking about the tutorial here, but this is a part of the update that I didn't even know was going to be added. So all credit to Danny Void, who is the developer who I work on Ditherboy with. When we did all the discussions about what was going to be in version 6, I didn't know this was coming, that this is his idea, and he added this like just on his own for fun. So all credit to him, because it works really, really cool. It looks really cool, works really well. So I've selected vertical scan here just because it's the one that messes with the lines the least, or it sort of preserves the line pattern. And then down here, I'm just going to change my video mode and these two little toggles here from standard to looped and quick to rendered. And then I'm going to hit play, and I'll just wait a second while my MacBook struggles to render these frames. You'll probably get there quicker than I will anyway, just because like I said, I'm doing the recording as well. Okay, cool. So now it's rendered. If I hit play, you'll see we've got this like glitchy interference now that comes through in the lines. There's all different types of patterns you can choose here. So 8 different patterns. Vertical scan works the best with this one. Have a look at all the others if you want. In the interest of not going on any tangents, I'm just going to leave mine on vertical scan, and then I'm going to come down here and hit add animation. We'll get this little layer come up. So if I click on here and go to category, dither, and then select my orb offset that I told you about earlier, because I've only got a 3-second animation, I don't want to do a big animation. So if I went orb offset -100 to +100, the orbs are just going to sort of go like this over the screen, like super quick, and it's gonna not even be perceivable. Now I'm gonna go orb like -8 to +8, so just a movement of 10 in the on the slider basically for orb offset. A couple of the other ones I mentioned before that were sort of inconsequential enough to do an animation on were luminance threshold and brightness. So I'm gonna go adjustments, dither, and then luminance threshold, and I'm just going to do a little movement on luminance threshold just to give the lines a little bit more energy. And then now if I hit play again, it'll render things out. You can, if you want, use quick video mode and it won't render your frames, but I just prefer to do it this way because I think it's a smarter way to do it. And just while my animation is finishing up rendering these frames, I will just remind you that we didn't have any plans to add animation into Ditherboy, but it was requested by people. Similar to a lot of the effects in Ditherboy, like halftone, the vector export and stuff. My own use case for dithering is creating like cool glitch art like this. That's kind of why I enjoy dithering. Well, if you've got Ditherboy and there is a use case or a workflow or something that we can improve in the app, or a missed opportunity for what we've not added, like animation, then please let us know, because I'm trying to make this like as user-oriented software as possible. But yeah, this is it. This is my final piece. You've got the little layer stack here, temporal variation at the bottom because it's pre-dither. Then you've got all your dithering effects, your orbs, your color palette here, and then you've got your Epsilon glow. If you want to come back in and just inject the red, you just move the color depth back up and you'll get the red back, and we'll see how that looks, which is pretty cool to be fair, but I still prefer the green version. Either way, whatever you do, if you put the red back in, if you adjust and stuff and keep iterating, just come to export video when you're happy, and that's it. That's my process for this piece and this style of work. And yeah, just getting something like new out of this type of dithering algorithm with the modulation, using the orbs and the temporal variation and the glow in your work. So thanks for watching. If there's any other tutorials you want to see, let me know. Anything for future updates you want to see, let me know. I will leave this stock photo, a link to the font, and I will drop the color palette in the Discord. I'll leave the links in the description as well. If you want to join the Ditherboy Discord, just come to settings and hit Discord here and you will be able to get in. You have to approve everyone manually though, so just bear with us while we get you approved. Other than that, I will see you in the next video.